You're with Al Jazeera. I'm Peter Dobby here in Doha. Your headlines so far today. Egypt's state media is now reporting at least 184 people have been killed and dozens more were injured after fighters targeted a mosque in Egypt's North Sinai. It happened during Friday prayers in Bir al-Abed. Local sources say the attackers planted explosives and then opened fire on worshippers while the sermon was underway. Emerson Mnangagwa has just become Zimbabwe's new president. He was sworn in front of thousands of cheering supporters who filled the National Sports Stadium to witness this historic event. He replaces Robert Mugabe, who ruled the country for 37 years. He's promised to advance the country and the lives of Zimbabweans. Let's get more on that for you. Joining us live now is Tino Berry. He's a lawyer and a human rights advocate. He's also formerly the president of the Law Society of Zimbabwe. Tino Berry, quite a long inauguration speech from the new president. For you, what was the most significant moment in there?
I think the most significant part is when he went into detail, because the speech had covered everything it needed to cover, promised something to everyone. But the most significant part were towards the end, when he focused on three items which he said are immediate, which is the cash crisis in the country, corruption, and the service delivery. You sensed that he had applied his mind to the detail for how that area should unfold, as opposed to the other areas which sounded more like the usual pledges you would make for good relations with everybody, including the world.
We've got a lot of speculation on who he talks to now about, getting money into the country, investment into the country. So it's basically, he'll be talking to China, he'll be talking to the IMF. Everyone's pretty much agreed on that. But within the internal domestic political context, was it also quite a clever speech? Because he didn't cross a line. Yes, he praised Robert Mugabe, but he didn't go too far. I mean, could he have gone further than that? Because people might have said, hang on, you were in effect Robert Mugabe's right-hand man for 3 decades.
I think the debate about his relationship with Robert, I think he has redefined it to say he will not condemn him, he will acknowledge his service, and not go into detail about where he failed. And I think he prefers that people will judge how he performs. This is why you sense that he quickly moves away from the past and starts focusing on the future. He acknowledged the failure of politics, did not go into detail, and pledged a different sort of politics, also did not go into detail. I would not be surprised if he spoke to the opposition and tried to include in his cabinet some people that are not necessarily from the ruling party. He has laid the groundwork for that. But legally, even if he didn't, I think he can still continue with dialogue to improve the politics and try to get away with that.
He's got a huge task ahead of him. His honeymoon period has now begun. Does he have to do something else, though, between now and the next elections? Does he have to be seen to reinvent himself as a politician, as opposed to somebody who was very closely lined up with what went before?
I think the challenge that it will be very hard for him to reinvent himself, except in terms of effectiveness in implementing whatever programs he puts on the ground. He cannot match the eloquence of Robert Mugabe, and he cannot feed from the politics of Robert Mugabe because he has to run away from that politics. So he's charting new ways for ZANU-PF, where he has to stay away from certain slogans and stay away from certain policies which have guaranteed re-election for ZANU-PF. So it will be interesting going forward whether in the short time that is there, he can govern so well that he gets elected in his own right based on the success of his policies in such a short time, or he will default to what he knows, which is the negative politics that have kept ZANU-PF in power.
Time will tell. Tino Berry there in Harare. Thank you.